All right, today we're going to dive into a skill that will fundamentally change how you understand, well, just about everything you read, from a classic novel to a news headline. We're going to learn how to look beyond the words on the page and see the entire world behind them.
You know that feeling, right? Where you're reading something and you get the words, but you can just tell there's this whole other layer of meaning that's flying right over your head. It's kind of like you're missing the inside joke that everybody else in the room seems to get.
Well, guess what? That feeling is totally real. Because to truly deeply grasp any story, you have to understand the world that created it. That's the secret key. It's the decoder ring for deeper meaning, and it all boils down to one powerful idea: context. Okay, so let's really get into it. To understand this, we've got to start by looking beyond the words themselves and trying to see the world they were actually born into. I mean, just think about it for a sec. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is created in a vacuum. Every article, every book, every single poem is a product of its environment. It was written in a specific time, in a particular place, and for a very specific reason. And understanding that, that's everything. So, how do we actually learn to see this invisible world that's buzzing around a text? Well, it's not just a guessing game, you know. Turns out, educators have a formal playbook for this, which brings us right to our next section: decoding the standard. So, our guide for this little journey comes from the Georgia Department of Education. They've outlined a core practice they call situating texts. Now, that's just a formal way of saying they've created a playbook to help teach students how to become, well, literary detectives. So, what is this thing we keep talking about? Context. At its heart, it's really just all the stuff surrounding a story: the setting, the history, the culture, all the pieces that allow a text to be fully understood. It's the who, what, where, and when that finally unlocks the why. And what's cool is, this approach breaks that huge idea down into a super practical checklist. It's like these literary detectives are trained to hunt for specific clues about the time period, the exact location, the cultural norms going on, any crucial background info, and, this is a big one, what else was happening in the world when that text was created. And this is really the most important part, right? This isn't just about collecting random facts for trivia night. The whole reason we dig into context is to get past the surface plot and uncover the real heart of the story, the author's hidden motivations, the deeper themes they're wrestling with, and all the different perspectives that shaped their words. All right, so we get the what and the why, but how do you actually teach somebody to do this? You know, in a real classroom. For that, we've got to open up the teacher's playbook. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're looking at the actual hands-on strategies that teachers use to make this whole idea click for their students. And check this out. This is how they do it. Teachers don't just say, "Hey, find the context." No way. They model it with really clear examples. They put up visual charts to define the key ideas. They guide students through a super careful word-by-word reading. And maybe most importantly, they get them talking to each other, piecing that puzzle together as a team. Okay, theory is great and all, but seeing this stuff in action, that's when the light bulb really goes on. So, for our last section, let's actually step inside a classroom and see how this all plays out. And our source document gives us this awesome example. So, picture this: a classroom full of kindergartners to second graders. We're talking 5 to 7-year-olds here. The teacher brings out a storybook set in the American Wild West. How on earth do you get a first grader thinking about historical context? Well, you start with really simple but super smart questions. The teacher asks, "What do the pictures tell us?" And a kid pipes up, "I think it's about cowboys, because I see horses and cowboy hats." Boom. Then, the next level: is this the past or the present? And a student figures it out. A long time ago, they're riding horses. And here's the kicker, the question that connects it all: what's different from your life? That's when you get these amazing insights. We ride a bus, and we get our water from the sink. So simple, but so powerful. And that little conversation can lead to something exactly like this. Just by making a simple chart, their world versus our world, that abstract idea of the past becomes so real, so concrete. It's not just some boring history lesson anymore. It's a direct comparison to their own lives. And right there, that's the aha moment. Through a really simple activity, these kids are grasping a huge concept, that the when and the where of a story changes absolutely everything. It shapes the characters' problems, their tools, their actions, their entire reality. So you might be thinking, why did we just spend all this time on a lesson for first graders? Well, here's why. This skill is not just for kids. It is for all of us. Understanding the context of a news report, a scientific study, a historical document, even a meme, that's what makes us informed, critical thinkers instead of just passive consumers of information. Which leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If someone, 100 years from now, picked up a story written today, a story about your life, what essential context would they need to know to truly understand your world? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us.